Welcome to Wordpath, the show about Oklahoma Indian languages and the people who are teaching and preserving them. Last week, crew member Linda Jordan and I went out to Tahlequah for the show. We had a lovely walk in the woods at Lake Tenkiller and a very informative interview with two Cherokee scholars. Let's take a look. First of all, I'd like to introduce Durbin Feeling on your left. He's a linguist here at Cherokee Nation. And Christine Armour on your right, who is a teacher and a language presenter at Cherokee Nation also. Thank you both very much for letting us tape you for the Wordpath show. I'd like to hear a little background on both of you. Durbin, can you tell us a little bit about your position here or how you got into the study of Cherokee linguistics?
It's a long story. I think it goes all the way back to my childhood. My first language was Cherokee, and had a hard time when I got to the first grade. Of course, back then, you didn't have Head Start or preschool or anything like that. You turned 6 years old and you found yourself in the first grade, and so that was kind of a traumatic experience with me with first language as Cherokee. So they expected me to communicate in English, and just really had a hard time, and I was paddled a few times because I couldn't respond in English, and so that didn't discourage me, though. I probably determined back then that I was going to learn both languages equally well. And so when I grew up, for a Cherokee to be able to read and write our language, our syllabic writing, it's pretty amazing for a child, a young child, to be able to do that. I learned to read at age 12 in our writing system, and that's kind of a rarity. But I really didn't learn how to or practice writing until I was in military service in Southeast Asia. So I would write back and forth with to my mother in our writing system. And I think it was at that time when I would read my testament as often as I could in Vietnam, and I saw the differences between the writing and the language that was used in 1800, which is when the testament was written. It was in 1850. So I began to notice the differences in our language and the language that was used in 1850 to write the New Testament. In our psalm book, we call it the Cherokee Hymn Book, and so I began to pay a lot of attention to the differences and why they were different and so on. And when I got out of the military service, I finished out my undergraduate work, and I got a bachelor's of arts in journalism. But then I went over to University of California in 1987 to do my graduate work in linguistics. So that's where I got my linguistics training.
And I understand you've just completed a doctoral degree at University of California, is that right? Congratulations. I know that's a long haul. It was for me anyway. Christine, how about you? Have you also spoken Cherokee all your life?
Yes, Cherokee was my first language, and like Durbin, I went to school, and 90% of the students in my class were all Cherokees. And we were sitting there thinking, okay, once you get thrown into a classroom like I was, well, like all of us were, you know, coming from a home that all you hear is Cherokee, one language only, and to be thrown into a classroom, you know, it was a quite an experience. It really was. But like Durbin, I was probably determined to learn both languages too.
You're both very lucky to have two cultures and two languages to be fluent in. What kind of teaching do you actually do, Christine? Is it mostly to people who don't yet speak Cherokee, or do you teach some regular classes in the Cherokee language?
Both. I have a mixture. It depends upon what area I'm in. Usually I'll have some to come because they want to learn how to read and write when they'll speak the language. And then most of them are non-speakers that want to learn how to speak the language.
They have families that grow up not speaking the language, not knowing anything about their culture, and they feel like they've been cheated out of something that they want to have, and so they'll write to us and say, how can we learn or relearn our language, and what do I need to do, and who do I need to talk with, and so forth. And so we do the best we can to send them materials written in Cherokee, and tapes, and instruction books and things like that we have. But since we're a young organization, we don't have that many that much literature yet to use. But we're working on that, and I think within the next year we'll have a few volumes of teaching textbooks and so forth to be able to use in classroom, and people to use to self-teach their language.
Christine, there are actually Cherokee language classes in the public schools in some communities, aren't there? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, they are. In fact, 6 years ago, I was working in a school system, Bayonne Public Schools, and they were the first schools to start a Cherokee language class as part of their curriculum. And the State Department did pass the law where the colleges would accept that as a foreign language, but we're using it as our native language, and they're learning their native language instead of having to learn Spanish or German or whatever. So now there's a lot of high schools are wanting that. In fact, we even helped Sapulpa High School in Tulsa start a Cherokee language class.
Great.
And there are other high schools that are interested. And
so
even
it's spreading.
It's spreading, even in elementary. Now Tahlequah Public Schools have started even in the junior high this year.
Wonderful. Durbin, can you, a lot of people who are watching this program don't know that much about linguistics. And I was wondering if you could perhaps give a little insight into what linguistics has to offer a language program or language teaching. How is the program improved by having someone with professional linguistic training involved?
Well, I think the biggest thing, the most important thing is to have someone working with the language that knows the structure of the language, because you can have teachers within a tribal government that teaches the language, and other people coming along and replacing the teachers that either retire or quit teaching and so forth. Well, you can have that, but someday those teachers are either going to either all quit at the same time, or not going to be important enough for them, depending on who they are down the line, a few generations down. But if you have a linguist on the staff, they're able to show the structure of the language, and like etymological items, where the words come from, derivations and things like that, and how the language is made up into, for instance, in Cherokee we have things like roots, stems, verb stems and things like that, and prefixes and suffixes that make up the verb, and so one word of a verb turns out to be a full sentence in Cherokee, and that's because the inflection of tenses and pronominal prefixes and things like that, which means that within a verb you know who's doing the talking. Like it's not only when you say like walk or talk or something like that, we can't say just walk or talk. It has to be he is talking, they are talking, or they talked, and things like that. So you have to have, Cherokee has all that information within one word, and yet it comes out like a full a full thought.
And that kind of structure doesn't shock a linguist too much, but someone that's only spoken English might find that really hard to fathom.
That's right. And also you have various things like classifying verbs, and a lot of peculiarities like tonality of a language, and the length and the pitch and things like that. Um, a lot of people who become linguists that don't know the language from birth cannot break up a word and say this is where this is coming from. You know, the actual derivation of words. And I can give you an example. We have a word that we use to describe a white person, and the word is yonega. That's the most common way that you'll hear a Cherokee speaker say a white person, yonega. That word is actually two words, and the two words come from Yahweh, which means person or persons. Unaga means the color of white, and those two words put together becomes Yawunaga or Yonaga. Whoever is doing the talking, you'll have the differences in pronunciation there. So all these things combined together, I think a linguist is very, very important in a language program, because if at one point there's one language speaker and they die, and no one else is left to speak the language, then a person who has been a linguist in that particular tribe, and if they've put together the structure of the language and explained how it's put together and so forth, and another linguist comes on board, then they can begin to rebuild the language from scratch almost.
By the way, Durbin, can you tell us approximately how many speakers of Cherokee there are?
Let me say, first of all, the registration department, I think, quotes around 160,000 Cherokees that are registered. But that includes Cherokees who are in California, New York, Dallas, Texas, and around the world, wherever they are. And I think the most concentration of Cherokee speakers are in the 5-county area here in the immediate surrounding area of Tahlequah. There are 5 counties there: Adair, Cherokee, Delaware, Mays, and Sequoia counties. And if we talk about that, and well, there are 14 actually in northeastern Oklahoma, but the most concentration is around those 5 counties that I mentioned. But in Oklahoma, I would say something like maybe 60,000 still speakers of the language. 60,000 registered Cherokees, and maybe in northeastern Oklahoma, and about 10% of those are speakers of the language.
That seems very impressive. Does that mean that Cherokee is in good shape for the future?
Well, when you think about people who speak the language and then you ask them, do they read? I think about less than half would say that they read the language. And then if you ask those who read the language, if you ask them if they do write the language, then it comes all the way down to maybe 5 or less percent of the 60,000. And so when you look at those statistics, I think Cherokee is probably on the list of languages that is in danger. It's not. There are some languages even in Oklahoma that are worse off than that. They only have one speaker left, and they're about 70, 80 years old, and so forth. Cherokee is not to that point yet, but the reason we have created a language department here is because we recognize that it could take just another generation to lose the language, because the younger ones are coming up not speaking the language. Generally speaking, there are some people that are having children that they still teach language to, but for the most part, the birth through 30 years old are not learning the language. And that's the biggest, I think, group of people in our linguistics group in Cherokee. And so, when you look at it from that perspective, then we do need to begin to, or continue rather, to be concerned about it and not slack off anything.
Do these 6,000 speakers all speak the same, or are there significant dialect differences?
I tend to think that it's not really dialect variations within Oklahoma. I think it's more of a colloquialism, meaning that really I think the reason that's so is because they don't have a standard to go by. And I've observed people who speak the language and who read some type of literature, for instance the Testament, or if they sing from the hymn book that we have. If they're a reader of Cherokee, they have one way of pronouncing the words, and if they're not readers of the language, then you may have 2 or 3 variations or more variations of pronunciation. So I think it's just mostly colloquialism. And
So
not dialect, not true dialect.
It's not really a problem in terms of setting up your
It's not
language program. You don't have to teach several different varieties.
No, I don't think so. Although, in my experience in teaching, I'm from Mays County, which is north of here, north of Tahlequah, and I go down to Sequoyah County, and Sequoyah County, that's where she's from, and she and I speak a little different. And so
You ever tease each other about that?
we do a lot of times.
Yes.
But I think the dialects, the major dialects, are between Oklahoma and North Carolina.
And how different are those? Can Oklahoma and North Carolina speakers understand each other pretty well?
Do you want to answer that since you've been to North Carolina? I've been to North Carolina too, but I want her to answer that.
At first, it was hard for me. It was hard for me to understand until I started really listening, and then I caught on, how they were doing it. And because there were some words that even my grandmother used, I'd catch it, but they would use it in a different phrase, in different ways. So there are some differences.
When I talk about that, there's usually a triangle effect there. I was talking to some elders up there in North Carolina one time. And by elders, I mean 70-year-old ladies and gentlemen, and back, this is about 10 years ago, I guess. I was 40 years old then, and so there was about 30 or 40 years difference between myself and the elders there, and we could speak the language fairly comfortably to one another, without too much of variation. Very few words were different. But I found out that the younger ones now in North Carolina, where they had a lot of differences between. There was a lot of differences between their speech and our speech here. But then what's very interesting is that 60 miles or 70 miles west of Cherokee, North Carolina, there's a place called Robbinsville. Now they have a real close dialect with ours there, just 60 miles west of North Carolina. And so we can communicate with Robbinsville group and with the elders in Cherokee, but there's a lot of differences between Oklahoma and the younger ones, younger speakers.
I wonder if you could just say a little bit, Durbin, about your status as a Cherokee man who is also a Cherokee linguist, that is a specialist in the language. Most tribes are not lucky enough to have one of their own who has this kind of expertise. What can you say about that position? I'm sure the Cherokee Nation must feel very fortunate.
I would say to the other tribes, I would just encourage them to have someone, to send someone to linguistic school, and get their education like that, and come back and help allow them to come back and help their language program, because it is it's very important, I think, to have someone like that, especially if they speak both languages and they know the what we call deep meaning and surface meaning, because not everybody that is a linguist have the knowledge of the language that from birth, or from the time they speak the language. So I would encourage the tribes to just to allow someone to go to school, get their training, and there's some good places where they can go. Like in summer programs, they have programs in Arizona State University, and there's one up in Cornet.
Is that the American Indian Language Development Institute?
Yes. Yeah, and you can go there. You can send someone there for just a nominal fee of tuition fee, and they'll put them up in dormitories and things like that, and they can get about 6 hours, and during I think 4 weeks to 5 weeks of instruction. And then there's another one up in Cornell University, and we've been fortunate to send someone up there. Christine went up there in June for 4 weeks and got some experience in linguistics.
Great. What did you think of it, Christine? Is it going to be useful to you?
Yes, it was great. In fact, I'm thinking about going into linguistics also, and I'm hoping that way that I can help Durbin and our tribe and our people, with the language, because it's my main interest.
Well, I know you all have talked a little bit about, the three of us have talked a little bit about the importance of saving conversation in languages. Sometimes people focus so much on the words or the grammatical structure, and they leave out the structure of everyday conversation, which really is so important to any living language. And I think you all have talked some about just demonstrating Cherokee conversation with each other for us so that we can see how it goes a little bit. Would you mind doing that?
Sure. I think Christine has some questions for me.
Hiện nay thì nó hay cái món này đồ thế cái nào thật sao? Thì cái ghét. Người món này thì đó halaya nu the land ha có hết chứ không thật sao.
Ai đã đồ đến thật sự ghét sao? We go there the one is ka on the one is ka the dini yos na him ghét sao? No one's call on the ghét on the din tas. Stuff you can do in the Gaston and that's what to talk in the one history. Now let's go to the dialect, let's go to the Langauge when you want the history. We go that guess on the interest in dialect. John the whole school used to go start to like when you want the history now. Can you go legal now?
What house can I not do? I can the name was gonna guess the skinner only one history. But you not KFC his heli. Don't the guts tan heli you want it.
Guy, let's question I have let's go to next go his goes in that here on that guy you squeeze to I have only one history. Go hit to guess it's only one is a second on their house only one history no and then one is gonna guess and now in that caves only one history. That Joe school na date here and this so no jeans still on the haska Dante Caesar when Haggy lived in the caves and then they on scanning guesses in the yacht that I on scanning guesses. The dog you say look at it and not on Haley.
School a showing gale cohenchick in the yacht Dantas gone. Cla Yafasco Turgies go and Lagielga hang your knee warning. Ni go healer. Still jag ni nästan nida heller ju på det kvar I. Och jag skulle ju det kvar hade ju dus ju det hjälpte. Och när han skulle dani still hinna ni wonis kan chinne wen and det hoskan I. Och när han ju det kvarste dan det hoskan och när han I det att still ni gat fall I utsket I nigane I woni histi I assint och I var ni gesa.
Guy will hand Joe school not 18 against the egentlig lost and cohentic. Joe school not 18 against so that's go to do that here so they say Juni lost it to do that needs a like Juni lost it last week school Yanni gale Juni lost it to do that now you together Joe school not 18 against Juni lost it no do ni law it's on a chadon because like it on day on because like it no let's go do we then not like join a cái đẹp sắc and that all is this cái God sẽ lấy chỉ nghe sẽ giặc this no one chick style ya what you know cái là chúng mình làm cái là đàn đây không cái nó đàn phải đúng cái món here khi là cho số nào đây thì cái 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 squeeze từ nào cái số in one is phải ya được no
Rồi ta Elise de nan saklo negadada I giwon histegi nela and this kenke tane ha se lot newe govelis go wel du hagere is like a hante de da ani golies ka te ge yo huskans ko tun lachste I got se tane tun lachste de si da de huska te lega hanones ko te lega hadani no gisko Asem nigai di gastele hellues at lega ni wonish in anat on tastinio to da tastinio.
Skulle jag ge ska han just nigai att jag lämnar när hon kan on där fast is like when you want to stay. Now let's go to nigai lära ju nå hela det. Nigai hen jag ta joiga. Jag går wanna ski. Jag går läs då det jag går väl ski ta jag fan skiga jo. Don't has I live the guy day hot. Kelon the nuclear guy hot. Ni wanna his this one. Och let's go to nå hela det.
Skede is skets na one no det det jo ska ta du le helt ni gå skets na one no det jo ska na ges det blir nas ko wage do histe. Det kan se jag jo.
Ska okej då ni wanna is.
Say to both of you, well done. Thank you very much for sharing all of this with us. It's been very educational and
Very welcome.
And thank you for joining us tonight. See you next time on Wordpath.
Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita. Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita. Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita. Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita.